Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. Israel projects cautious optimism regarding negotiations for a hostage release deal, which would also end the war in the Gaza Strip. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan accuses U.S. President Donald Trump of not being fair towards the internationally prescribed terror organization, the Islamist Hamas. And President Trump says his proposed outline for a deal between Israel and Hamas could lead to broader Middle East peace. Jerusalem projects cautious optimism vis-à-vis talks currently underway in Egypt's Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, amid extensive efforts by the United States to pressure its regional partners, including Qatar and Turkey among others, to force President Trump's proposed outline upon the Islamist Hamas, aimed at securing a long-lasting cessation of hostilities and a comprehensive hostage release deal. U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Ithani, and Turkish MİT Intelligence Director Ibrahim Kalin all traveled to Egypt to participate in the talks in a decisive push to try to hammer out the latest details of implementing President Donald Trump's 21-point plan. However, despite claims of accepting President Trump's outline, the Islamist Hamas terror organization has refused to accept a number of key issues related to its disarmament, as well as its role in the future governance of the Gaza Strip, believing it can somehow force its demands upon both the United States and Israel.
إيمانا منا بمسؤوليتنا الوطنية تجاه شعبنا وحقوقه المشروعة، تعاملت الحركة بمسؤولية عالية مع كل مقترحات وقف إطلاق النار خلال العامين الماضيين، والتي كان آخرها مقترح الرئيس الأمريكي دونالد ترامب.
Meanwhile, in Ankara, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, whose Islamist party holds the same Muslim Brotherhood ideology as the Islamist Hamas, insisted that Hamas had in fact accepted President Trump's 21-point deal, while further unabashedly contending that President Trump was not being fair towards Hamas, insisting that the American leader's approach was not realistic. Moreover, irrespective of the fact that the IDF had effectively seized its Gaza offensive the moment President Trump demanded it to do so, the Turkish leader claimed that Israel continued its offensive in defiance of the American leader's call.
Filistin Direniş Örgütü Hamas, Sayın Trump'ın barış planına son derece müspet cevap vermiş, böylece barış iradesini çok net ortaya koymuştur. Ancak şurası bir gerçek ki barış tek kanatlı bir kuş değildir. Barışın tüm yükünü Hamas'a ve Filistinlilere yüklemek ne adildir, ne doğrudur, ne de gerçekçi bir yaklaşımdır. Şu anda barışa giden yolun önündeki en büyük engel İsrail'in saldırılarıdır. İsrail, Sayın Trump'ın açık çağrılarına rağmen olumlu atmosferi baltalayan saldırılarına devam etmektedir. Gerçekten barış isteniyorsa İsrail'in saldırıları derhal durdurulmalıdır.
Meanwhile, in Cairo, Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati, in a joint press conference with his Dutch counterpart David van Wiel, voiced hope that talks to implement President Trump's deal would bear fruit.
ونأمل بطبيعة الحال في تهيئة الظروف المواتية لإطلاق سراح الرهائن وعدد من المحتجزين الفلسطينيين، بالإضافة إلى النفاذ الكامل للمساعدات الإنسانية إلى داخل القطاع دون أي عوائق، وأيضا العمل على الاتفاق على خرائط لإعادة انتشار القوات الإسرائيلية تمهيدا للانسحاب من قطاع غزة. ونحن كلنا ثقة في قدرة الرئيس دونالد ترامب على تنفيذ هذه الخطة.
Earlier, after Cairo's top diplomat met with Germany's foreign minister, Johann Wadephul, Berlin's top diplomat asserted that he remains confident about the viability to implement President Trump's 21-point deal.
Ich bleibe zuversichtlich, das haben mir alle Gespräche bisher gezeigt, sowohl diejenigen, die ich in Katar geführt habe, als auch in Kuwait, gestern in Tel Aviv und heute in Kairo. Alle Beteiligten haben den festen Willen, diesen Friedensplan Schritt für Schritt umzusetzen. Und wir sind jetzt bei Phase 1. Wir beide haben es ja gerade eben erwähnt, wir haben uns auch nochmal mit der amerikanischen Seite, mit Steve Witkoff, abgestimmt. Aber die Details müssen jetzt in aller Ruhe und ehrlich gesagt auch in Vertraulichkeit miteinander besprochen werden.
Minister Wadephul went on to point out that Hamas's perception that the hostages they are holding captive are somehow bargaining chips is inherently false.
Hamas muss verstehen, dass die Geiseln, die in ihren Händen sind, für sie kein Faustpfand mehr sind, sondern eine Belastung. Und ich glaube, wenn das eingesehen wird und wenn auch Hamas einsieht, dass der Abschluss dieser Verhandlungen eine neue Zukunft öffnet, dann haben wir eine wirkliche Chance, endlich diese große Katastrophe einzudämmen. Wir werden sie nicht sofort beendigen können, aber einen ersten wichtigen großen Schritt zur Befriedung der Region zu machen.
Meanwhile, in Washington, speaking alongside visiting Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the White House, President Donald Trump expressed his conviction that his proposed deal to cease the Hamas-instigated war against Israel could possibly turn into broader Middle East peace.
I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East. It's something even beyond the Gaza situation. We want a release of the hostages immediately, etc. And so our team is over there now. Another team just left, and other countries, literally every country in the world has supported the plan.
Yep.
In response to a question on what type of assurances were given to guarantee that the war would not restart after the hostages are released, President Trump asserted that the United States has a lot of power to assert its will.
Well, the primary guarantee is once this deal happens, if it does happen, look, they're in negotiations right now, we are going to do everything possible. We have a lot of power, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure everybody adheres to the deal.
Meanwhile, in Washington, Israeli and American freed hostages, survivors of Hamas's October 7th massacre in southern Israel, and families of hostages who have now endured 733 days of captivity in the Gaza Strip, joined together to call for an immediate implementation of President Trump's 21-point plan.
This is a nightmare that continues. It is living in hell, not visiting hell. So one cannot heal while one is being stabbed. One cannot heal while one is bleeding. It must end before even the remotest beginning of healing can begin. We need to have the hostages released so we can move forward.
The terrorists who captured Aviva and me, both in our 60s, held absolute power over our lives. Every moment was controlled by the constant presence of weapons of many kinds, threats, and fear, threatening to kill us. As a 65-year-old man, I knew how vulnerable I was. On day 51, Aviva was released in a short ceasefire deal. We were told I would be freed the next day. For the first time in weeks, we allowed ourselves to hope that soon we would be together again, reunited with our family. But 5 days after Aviva's release, the ceasefire collapsed, and I remained in Gaza.
President Trump, please don't stop now. you've brought us this far. Finish what you started, what we know and trust you can. Bring my brothers home. Bring all of the hostages home. Let this be the moment the world finally acts with courage and compassion for those still alive who are waiting to be freed, and for those who must be given the dignity of a proper burial.
It is important to highlight that 48 hostages, 20 of them are believed to be alive, including Israelis, Americans, Germans, and other nationalities, have now endured 733 days in Hamas captivity in the Gaza Strip. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. If you're blessed by our updates, which are exclusively donation-based, please support TV7 with a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I would like to encourage you also to keep praying for all of the hostages in Hamas captivity in the Gaza Strip. Pray also for Christians and Druze currently under siege by the Damascus regime in southern Syria, and the Christian community that is faced with atrocities by Islamist terror groups in Nigeria. And last but not least, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you once again a Chag Sukkot Sameach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.